Hey friends. Whew. Happy weekend. I'm in a great mood because I just rewatched the video I did yesterday with Bryce and Stephanie. If you haven't seen it yet, I believe it's up on Bryce's channel. But go watch it. We talk about some very adult things, but I was laughing very hard. It is a great mood booster. Just from the sheer openness and bluntness of the conversation we had, especially towards the end of the video. It's definitely, it definitely boosts your mood, that's for sure. So go watch it if you haven't already. Something I wanted to talk about is, I can't stop laughing. Okay. Something I wanted to talk about is spiritual experiences. So as some of you probably know from me being and talking about my spiritual experiences on other people's channels and videos, I have grown up having spiritual experiences, and you know, that worked out well for me in the charismatic world to some extent. But being in that world kind of was limiting. So now that I am away from that world in a lot of ways, I am much more open and free and have way more spiritual experiences because they're not put in a box anymore. Also, so many people, I think the hardest thing for people when talking about spiritual experiences is the idea of, one, belief that it's even real, that it's even happening, and two, most people are like, I'm just making this up. Three, it's kind of like a game of my imaginary friend is better than your imaginary friend. Which is just kind of ridiculous when you say it that kind of way. But like I said, I have grown up having spiritual experiences. So the story goes that I was seeing things from a very early age. My first word other than mama or dada was angel. There are home videos of me pointing up at the ceiling going, angel, angel. As like a 2 and 3 year old. And what happened was I remember pointing out the angels, or what I had a reference for. I called everything an angel pretty much. And then I would also come into my mom's room at night and tell her that I had a conversation with Jesus on my bed, like he was sitting on my bed. And I actually can remember that. I remember those moments. They were like split seconds, but at the same time, they felt like I had a long conversation. And that's just kind of something strange to remember as like a 3-4 year old, but I remember having them. And then around the time that my parents started to move towards getting divorced, I started having insane nightmares. And I'm pretty sure I was just feeling what was in the atmosphere of the, you know, like their inner worlds, demons, whatever you want to call it, fighting each other. And I would have crazy nightmares to where I couldn't sleep by myself. I was afraid of the dark. And I remember one day after we had moved out of my dad's house, I remember one day being just so terrified by seeing all the stuff around me, being in a new home and having nightmares all the freaking time. I was just like, I don't want to see it anymore. And it shut off, completely shut off. And that was probably around when I was around 6 or 7. So then fast forward to me being a teenager. I think I was in 9th grade actually. Yeah. And I went to this camp at my church, which again, very charismatic, non-denominational church. And someone said they had a prophetic word for someone that used to see and no longer does, but wants it back, basically. And I was like, that's me. I want it back. Because it's like a superpower. It's like shutting off a superpower. I mean, even though we all have total access to it and all can tap in, I think that all of the gifts are for everybody, but some just come out initially stronger, remembering or have a more of a connection with certain ones. And mine was seeing. But I remember going up and being like, that's me, I want to see it. And I literally started seeing after this leader prayed for me. And then I came home after that camp, and I went to bed that night and saw something sitting on my piano stool. And I was like taken aback by it because I hadn't seen anything like that in a very long time. And I kept like talking to it, being like, go away, like if you're not good, like if you're not of God, go away, you know, like everything I had on my little tool belt to use. And it just kept like smirking at me. It just had this like smirk on its face. It was a man, or just like a man form. And it just sat there. And it was there the next day. And I called my mom and my sister in the room, and they kind of have different spiritual gifts. And I like just asked them, I was like, do you sense anything bad in here? And I remember my mom walking in and saying, no, it actually feels really good. And I was like, okay. And then my sister comes in, she was like, is there something like orange sitting over by your piano stool? I was like, yes. I don't know about orange, but yes, like it's been there the whole freaking time. It won't go away. And it follows me wherever I go. And then from there, it just kind of expanded and expanded and expanded. And now I am where I am today, very much seeing, sensing, feeling, hearing, smelling sometimes, literally all of the senses. I have started to tap into more and more in the last few years because I am putting worth into it. I am trading into it, essentially. When I see something out of the ordinary, which sometimes it literally will just be like a speck of blue light that kind of like looks like how a diamond looks when you like shine, like move it a certain way. I'll see like a little speck. And when I see that speck, I like picture myself just taking like an anchor and anchoring into it and just waiting and seeing what happens with it. Because the fact that I'm acknowledging it and honoring it, the more that I'm drawing it to myself, because I think that it is so cool, first of all, and super important, and such a part of who we are as spiritual beings, and the part that is being so, the part that's being so incredibly sought after, and there's a war over our ability to realize that we are these magical, amazing spiritual beings. So going back to why a lot of people have a hard time with spiritual gifts, one of them is the imagination. Most people think, oh, I'm just imagining that, you know, oh, that's not real, I'm just imagining it. My favorite thing I think I've ever heard anybody ever say was that if you think that you can imagine something that doesn't already exist somewhere in space and time and the universe, that means you are a more powerful creator than the creator, because you can think of something that isn't already there. To me, that hit me so hard, because I don't think we're more powerful. I think we are a part of the creator. I think it's all one, in a sense. And I don't think that we can create anything that is not already there. It's like it's like the mindset of like, oh, that's bad because the dark side uses that. The only reason why the dark side uses that is because the dark side can't create anything that doesn't already exist. He can use things and twist them. The same way that we can use things and twist them, or we can use things to create something else. You get what I mean? Also, a lot of people with the whole is it real thing. The way that we measure if something is real or not is if we have a memory attached to it. I personally remember most, if not all, of the spiritual experiences that I've ever had. I feel like I can confidently say that because I can go back in my memory just like I can with any other time in my life, and I can go back to that experience and what happened in that experience as if it were a physical memory. And to me, things are real when I remember them, right? So if you're remembering a spiritual experience, if you have a sensation and a feeling inside your body, that means it's real. The good and the bad. I think one of the reasons why it has been such a plan of the dark side to keep us continually externally distracted is so that we never sit in the quiet and have time with ourselves and our own thoughts. Because I don't know about you, but when I just sit alone in the quiet, which I don't have that much time anymore, or even if I'm just mindlessly doing a task without any external input, like I'm not watching anything, I'm not listening to anything, my thoughts start going in a direction and I start seeing things in my mind, and it just kind of, whether I'm thinking about a memory that's happened or literally having a spiritual experience. I feel like I have kind of trained and conditioned myself in that way. I've programmed my subconscious mind to talk to me when there is quiet or when there is no external input. That is why it's so important. Like Catherine, Edwards, and Bryce, and I think Shanti from Aquarius Rising Africa, they have started this whole series on meditation and why it's so important. And that is exactly why. Because if you're constantly filling yourself with external input, there will be like no room for anything to flow to you and out of you. You kind of just get stuffed. You get like full. You're full to the brim. I've talked about this before, but there's many times when I just saw 333 on my camera. There are many times when I feel like I need to not just physically fast from external input like food, but mentally, emotionally, social media fast so that I don't have any external input coming in, because I know that the creativity is stagnant. And what happens when creativity is stagnant? It causes chaos. Why is the world the way it is today? Because we've become so stagnant beings, because we've got so much external input coming into us at all times and never releasing, and then it creates chaos inside of our bodies, and then the world becomes chaotic. So I think it's extremely important to have those meditative times. I mean, today, for me, the reason I even thought about talking about this topic was because it happened to me today. I was washing the dishes at this lady's house that I clean once a week. And I didn't have headphones in. I wasn't watching anything, like distracting myself. I just was washing the dishes. And I had like 4 great topics of discussion to talk about come into my head. It was like, because there was no external input, it gave space for the spiritual realm to come in and be like, hey, you should talk about this. And I was like, that is a great idea. Ooh, I just got a revelation about that. Ooh, that makes sense. That's so cool. Literally. Yesterday, I took a little break from social media and whatnot. And last night, I kid you not, I created some of the coolest things that will be going on my shop very soon. I'm thinking on 3/3 because that just feels really right, and I love 33. So yeah, and it was all because I just gave myself the space to allow the energy from the spiritual realm to flow in and out of me. And I find the more that I do that, the easier it is to talk to this camera, because sometimes, honestly, it is really difficult to continue on a stream of thought when you don't have anybody talking back. I'm just gonna be real. Like, talking to friends on Zoom and recording it is so much easier than trying to stay on topic and talk to a camera, for real. Which is why sometimes you'll see my video jump, because I'll take a minute and pause and think about what I'm trying to say, because I have to get myself back on track, and I'm not gonna make you listen to silence for like a minute while I just stare. Anyways, so yeah, I just feel like it's really important for people to start realizing how connected we all actually are to the spiritual realm. The kingdom realm is what I like to call it. And all of the gifts, whether it's sight, hearing, feeling, smell, I don't really know what all the other ones are. What are the other ones? Healing, I guess, with your hands. I don't really know what the other ones are, but all of the gifts are meant for us. They are gifts. They do not represent maturity, so don't get, don't be blinded by the gifts. Gifts have absolutely nothing to do with maturity and growth. They are gifts. So just remember that when you're watching people that have gifts. One reason I think it's important to realize that everyone can do these things is because we need to stop idolizing the people that have already tapped in to do these things. I can't tell you how many people in my life have acted really weird around me when I have told them that I can see beyond the veil in a lot of ways. I honestly don't, like, I think that I can see to an extent, but I haven't like fully tapped into all the potential of it, if that makes sense. Like, I can see into probably a dimension, a different dimension, but not like all of them. I still have to like get to that point. There's always, literally, there's not a finish line. There's always room to grow. Always. Because if there wasn't, what's the point? So you can do it. And I think the best way to figure out which one you're more connected to is just whichever one you're drawn the most to. I have just always known that I could see things because, like, I have to be very careful with what I watch in general. I can't watch anything that has like zombies in it or like hardcore gore, because it literally imprints in my mind and I cannot erase it. There are things that my husband can watch that I absolutely cannot watch because it will absolutely imprint in my mind and it'll haunt me basically. So that is one of the negative things to seeing, is you don't really forget it. And it kind of becomes a part of you. So you just have to be really responsible in what you are seeing and what you're looking into. So figure out which one you're drawn to and let me know in the comments if you have one that you're more drawn to than the other. I think that'd be super interesting to know. So yeah, have a fantastic day and weekend if you're watching this on the weekend. Bye.